Hello everyone, welcome to sqadia.com. I'm Hina Khan, and today the topic of our lecture is based on the psychotherapies that are being carried out. So, what do we basically mean by these psychotherapies? These are the talk therapies, and that are usually implied when a person is suffering from some sort of mental disorders. And when these mental disorders can be treated by some sort of verbal treatments or psychological treatments, they are regarded as the psychotherapy. So, this is the mainstay of our lecture today. We'll be discussing the psychotherapies and obviously the effectiveness of psychotherapy. So sometimes it is considered that it is a kind of a therapy which doesn't contain that much of an effectiveness, but that's quite an opposite to that. Sometimes a lot of medical disorders can be treated just by psychotherapies, and in these cases, we do not imply any sort of pharmacotherapies. So the types of different sorts of psychotherapies will be discussed along with that over here in this section. And then we'll be discussing the different kinds of approaches that are made by the clinical psychiatrists to deal with certain kinds of medical ailments. In the second section, we'll be discussing the emotional therapy. So this is one of the approaches that can be implied in a lot of patients. So we'll be discussing that over here, and then we'll be discussing what kind of a therapy is known as the group therapies. Why are they carried out? What are the particular circumstances that has to be maintained for this type of a treatment? And along with that, we'll be discussing family therapy. How do you define it, and what are the circumstances for conducting the family therapy? Then we'll be discussing the goals of carrying out these therapies in different situations. That will be discussed over here. In the third section, we'll be discussing the cognitive therapy mainly. So we have different sorts of psychotherapies ranging from the cognitive therapies, the behavioral therapies, then we have the humanistic approaches towards the different medical and psychological ailments. Then we'll be discussing another form of psychological ailment therapy that is known as the electroconvulsive therapy, also known as the ECT. The electroconvulsive therapy will be discussed along with its definition, and then we'll be discussing the psychosurgeries. So sometimes surgeries are also implied for the treatment of different kinds of psychological ailments. A very famous or a notorious surgery is lobotomy that is performed in a lot of cases. So we'll be discussing that over here. And then we'll be moving on to the exposure therapy, which is sometimes performed through the virtual reality method, and that will be discussed over here in this section. In the fifth and the last section, we'll be discussing the cultural aspects of the psychotherapy. So there are a lot of taboos that are associated with these kind of treatments. So we'll be discussing them over here. And what is the reality behind these taboos? We'll be discussing that over here. And then the cybertherapies, they are sometimes performed. So the psychopharmacologies that is devised sometimes, and that is sometimes coupled with the psychotherapies or the verbal treatments just to enhance the outcomes. So I hope you want to learn more about these psychotherapies, so do watch the other sections to this lecture as well.